It had been almost a year since I'd last seen Mark. He was my high school sweetheart, the kind of guy who could make your heart flutter just by walking into a room. Back then, we were inseparable, young, wild, and in love, or at least what we thought love was. Things changed after college started. We went our separate ways, both needing time to grow into the people we were meant to be. And honestly, I didn't think we'd ever cross paths again. So when I received a message from him out of the blue that simply read, "Hey, want to grab coffee sometime?" my heart skipped a beat. It was surreal. I stared at the screen for at least 10 minutes, wondering if I should even reply. Was this a trap? A memory-lane trip I wasn't ready for?
But curiosity got the best of me.
I replied, "Sure, when?" And within moments, we had set a date for Saturday afternoon at a little cafe downtown. When Saturday arrived, I took extra care getting ready. Not because I wanted to impress him, at least that's what I told myself, but because I wanted to feel confident.
Strong.
I chose a simple sundress, nothing too dramatic, and let my hair fall naturally. As I walked into the cafe, the familiar chime above the door greeted me, and so did he. Mark stood up as soon as he saw me, wearing that same warm smile I remembered. He looked different, more mature, broader shoulders, a little scruff on his jaw. But those eyes? Still the same deep blue that had once convinced me the world could stop spinning. We hugged, a little awkwardly, and sat down. The initial small talk was just that, safe, cautious, polite. We chatted about jobs. He worked in tech now, our families, his parents moved to Florida, and even old teachers from high school. There was a moment when our hands brushed across the table, and both of us instinctively pulled away. It was like our past was sitting at the table with us, quietly watching, waiting to be acknowledged. "Honestly, I didn't think you'd say yes," he said, stirring his coffee slowly. "I almost didn't," I admitted. "But I was curious. Why now?" Mark hesitated, then leaned forward, his tone shifting. "Because I realized I never really got closure. And because I miss talking to you. Just talking." The sincerity in his voice caught me off guard. I wasn't sure what I expected, maybe a casual meetup to reminisce, or, worse, a selfish reason, but this was different. Genuine. Vulnerable. And before I knew it, we were deep into a conversation about life, regrets, and all the what-ifs we never spoke of before. He told me about a rough breakup he had last year, and how it made him reflect on all his past relationships, especially ours. I found myself opening up, too, about my struggles with trust, my recent move into a new apartment, and how I sometimes felt like I was floating through life without direction. It was strange how easy it was to talk to him again, like no time had passed. As we walked out of the cafe 2 hours later, Mark turned to me and said, "Hey, this is going to sound crazy, but would you want to go for a walk? There's this park nearby, and I'm not quite ready to say goodbye yet." I paused, unsure. But something inside me whispered yes. So I nodded, and we headed down the street together. The park was quiet, scattered with a few joggers and kids playing on swings. We strolled along the path, sometimes silent, sometimes talking. The sun was beginning to set, casting a warm golden light that made everything feel surreal. At one point, we stopped at a bench, and he asked, "Do you remember when we used to come here after school?" I laughed.
Yeah.
We thought we were being so sneaky. Mark smiled, looking down at his hands. We were just kids pretending to be grown-ups. That's when he looked at me differently, not like an old friend or a stranger, but like someone who had known me in another life and was suddenly seeing me anew. The air between us felt heavier, charged with something unspoken. "I've changed a lot," he said softly. "But some things about you, they still feel like home."
I didn't know what to say.
My heart was racing, but I couldn't decide if it was excitement or fear. We'd come so far in just one afternoon, but I didn't want to dive back into something just because it felt nostalgic. We ended the evening with a long hug and a promise to keep in touch. It was open-ended, no expectations. And I liked that. It gave me space to think, to feel, and to process everything. Over the next few weeks, we started texting more often. It was casual at first, funny memes, random thoughts, music recommendations, but then turned into longer calls at night, deeper conversations, and eventually another invitation. This time, Mark asked if I'd like to go out for dinner. A real date, he clarified. I hesitated for a moment. My past was full of second chances that didn't always end well. But something about the way he asked, the honesty in his voice, made me say yes. He picked me up the following Friday, flowers in hand, just like he used to. But this wasn't high school. This wasn't two kids escaping curfews and sneaking kisses. This was different.
Grown.
Intentional. We went to a small Italian restaurant with soft music and candlelight. The mood was calm, almost romantic, and I found myself smiling more than I had in a long time. He remembered how I liked my pasta, that I preferred tea over coffee at night, and that I always order dessert, even if I say I won't. After dinner, we walked back to his car in comfortable silence. When he opened the door for me, I paused, looking at him. "Mark, what is this?" I asked, suddenly overwhelmed. He looked at me earnestly. "This is me trying to do things right. Not to rush, not to pretend we're still the same people we were, but to see if maybe, just maybe, there's still something here worth exploring." The honesty in his words hit me like a wave. I nodded slowly, unsure of the future, but certain of one thing. I wanted to see where this could go. Over the next few months, we rebuilt something. It wasn't exactly what we had before. It couldn't be. We'd both changed, been through different relationships, and carried our own baggage. But this time, we were careful, respectful, and open. We talked about boundaries, goals, even fears. We had disagreements and laughed through old memories. He came to my apartment for dinner, met my dog, and helped me paint my living room. I learned about his new passion for photography and how he'd started volunteering on weekends. It was like discovering him all over again, piece by piece. And somewhere along the way, I realized that the person I used to love had grown into someone I could truly admire. Not because he was perfect, but because he was trying.
And so was I.
One rainy evening, as we sat curled up on the couch watching a movie, Mark turned to me and whispered, "I don't know what the future looks like, but I know I want you in it." I didn't answer right away. Instead, I took his hand and held it tightly, letting the moment speak for itself. Sometimes, life gives you a second chance not to repeat the past, but to rewrite it entirely. What started as a simple message turned into a journey of rediscovery, forgiveness, and maybe a new beginning.